please join me in welcoming Jim McKay and actor Genoel Ramírez. Thank you both for being here again. Just really such a beautiful film, such a beautiful look at immigration and the community that's built outside of one's own country. So I guess I wanted to start by asking both of you how initially this film came about to be, and how was the collaboration process between you, especially given that it's two different cultures at play here. You know, Jim as an outsider looking into this community that's built in Sunset Park in Brooklyn, and Genoel, how was that for you, having someone come to you guys, and how would that collaboration process was like for both of you?
Buenas tardes a todos. Good afternoon. It was it felt good to have someone that was able to project our lifestyle as immigrants, and I was really happy when I met him, you know, and realized that there's more people out there that cheers for us.
I do want to just thank the New York Historical, and I want to thank the Uptown Cinema, which is super exciting for the neighborhood. I think it's an amazing time for cinema in New York City in particular, and great that this neighborhood will have yet another place to show films. So thank you for having us, and thank you, Moises, for being here. And I don't know, we both got up and we said we were crying. So it was, I'm a little bit, what was the question?
Just you know, how that collaboration process was with the whole community.
Well, yeah, I was a complete outsider of the community. I lived in the neighborhood right next to Sunset Park in South Slope, and my Spanish is horrible, but we talked earlier about like where did the idea come from, and truthfully I never really remember. Usually I've tried to, you know, making a film is difficult, as you know, and it takes a lot of time, and you know, I'm always hoping to make something that's different and shows a story that I haven't seen, and that also enriches my own experience in my own life somehow. And I made a film about a restaurant and workers, and I made some films about high school and in different neighborhoods. One of my films was made in Crown Heights, exclusively on location, and I was thinking about another neighborhood film, and thinking about work, and thinking about teaching me, which I think is really at the root of the film. You know, this story about like what is our time and what is our experience worth in terms of like work and life, and somehow that idea worked its way into this place and this community. That's where.
And I mean, it's nice that you mentioned you were both almost crying. I wanted to know that
maybe 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to ask. You know, it's such a different time, both in what the city was like, what the food industry was like, in both of your lives. So I'm curious, now that you saw this film again, you know, how does that make you feel for all of those three things? You know, both for you as a filmmaker, for you, Genoel, as an immigrant, how has your life changed? And looking back at something like this, you know, how does that feel?
I mean, it's it feels that job was really challenging. I mean, because you know, we don't. I mean, you're not expecting anything other than just do the job, do the acting. And then once that passed, and then you look back, it's just, I mean, I'm you know, like, really grateful for that, for those moments, because, you know, it makes you kind of like, have different other windows, you know, through you know, to the past of the years,
You look back at yourself.
It's a bad experience. Yeah.
And you, Jim, and I mean, I guess when you started with this film, the food delivery industry was a complete different beast than what it is today. You know, it's every restaurant had their own staff, and nowadays it's changed so much. And I'm curious to ask you, you know, how does that make you feel in terms of the landscape that you represented and what, you know, we have nowadays, which is completely different.
Yeah, I think Jose's the last remaining pedaling delivery guy. Electric bikes were just starting out. I mean, you know, everything's different and everything's the same. We shot in the summer of 2016 when, 4 months before an election that many thought was going to be one that was positive for immigrants and undocumented immigrants in particular, should a Democrat become president. And that didn't happen. And then so by the time the film actually came out, we had Trump's first term, and you know, who thought it could get even worse than that? But it has. And then yet in a lot of other ways, communities have grown stronger, and you know, there's, yeah, I don't know. So what I hope is that the film, just whenever it's viewed, you know, it's interesting to watch it 10 years later. I think Moises made a film about delivery guys, bicycle delivery guys, and a lot of it was about connection between here and home. And I was, having seen that a couple weeks ago, I was really happy I had kind of forgotten about all the material in this film that kind of was about that as well, like meeting someone on the street, or a new roommate coming in and he knows you're a high school teacher, you know, the connection between here and there, and you know, so that's something that certainly still remains and kind of speaks to the whole thing, as well as the essential idea of like what is our time and our life, what is our value, and so many Americans, United States citizens, just do nothing but work and are, you know, just 24 hours a day, and the culture has become that. And so I think it crosses cultures in that regard, again, so, you know.
I really like that you brought, I mean, very briefly, but that scene where the new roommate arrives, there's a line in there, I might be reading it wrong, but after he leaves, somebody says like, oh, when you first got here, we also, you know, and that's something I really appreciate in the movie, is that it really shows the community, and you know, with all immigrants from all places, it's something that's very important, and I mentioned as well before that in the film you also showcase them speaking their native tongue, which is Mixtec, and you know, there's so much authenticity in this film that otherwise you wouldn't expect from someone who's not from inside that community. So I really, you know, enjoy that in the film. So I mean, I also, you know, did you have someone alongside that you were, whether writing or during the directing process, or at some point that you were relying on to I mean, of course the actors know, right? Because they're all non-actors, but was there someone else that was helping keep this so authentic, or was it you, or, you know,
a lot of people, all throughout the journey, in the writing of the script. I had worked on a couple documentaries that were made in Texas and Mexico, going back and forth, and so that experience was great. There was a book called Mexican New York that is very much about Sunset Park, actually, which was super influential to me. And then once the script was written, casting it on the street in Sunset Park, trying to be true to Sunset Park's uniqueness in terms of being a neighborhood where people from Puebla in particular, at one point at least, were settling. And then once we were shooting the crew, we had a very bilingual crew, and as I said, my Spanish is not good, and so that was certainly helpful. And of course, there's a certain amount of improvisation that was done, and in rehearsals as well. We played soccer together for 6 months in the winter before we shot the film, which was a great lead up to things to get the gang hanging out.
Genoel, how was, for you acting for the first time? Was it hard? You got to improvise. What was, how was that for you?
The first thing that came up in my mind was, why is this Blanco doing this? But then I talked to my partner back in the days and said, listen, there's something going on. I really want to try before I die. So right on, and it was I couldn't believe it because you told us to go to the park, right? To meet up over there, the area, the field. So I was a little skeptical because he was giving money for us to buy the soccer shoes. And I said, really? He gave like 100 each. And we put their names and everything. And, everybody just signed their name. And I said, is this a serious thing going on? And then there was another lady there, I don't remember her name, but she said, yeah, no, it's a serious project.
It's hard to get the trust.
Yeah, because you never know. Maybe you get deported or something. You know what I mean? But he was from the get-go. He's always friendly like that. Yeah, thank you.
But we were playing soccer in Red Hook a lot, and because we had thought maybe we were going to shoot it there for a minute, and after a couple months, a couple of the guys were like, when is this happen? When is this actually? I was like, in the summer sometime we're going to shoot. We definitely think we're going to shoot in the summer. You definitely think.
Just wanted to play soccer.
Yeah, week after week, it was a little bit like, is what's going on? And the whole process of the actors dealing with work was Byzantine. It's very interesting because Abel, who plays Jesus in the film, he asked his boss to, he said, I'm gonna have to take off and some days to do this film, and the guy said, no, you can't do that, you're my best worker, and I was like, I gotta go talk to him. He's like, no, I said, I'm gonna go talk to him. So I went to talk to him, and I'm like, he said that to me. He said that he's my best worker. I was like, dude, that's our story. Like, that's our film. Where the film is about this guy, and you have to honor the fact that he's your. Come on, let's work it out. And he said, great. And he was working at a grocery store on Fifth Avenue, unloading vans with food. And halfway through the shoot, he got fired. And I said, Abel, we'll deal with it. I'll take care of it. And he was like, no, fuck that guy. I want to do this. I was like, oh shit, we've radicalized him. And he got another job, of course, and in the way that the guys in the film talk about it. But it was life, reflecting fiction, and fiction reflecting life. And it was a giant adventure, and I'm glad that we did get to make the film. Sorry you were worried about that.
It's really a beautiful film, so I'm glad it worked out. I guess that's all the time we have, but Thank you all so much for coming out.